A little over a year ago to this date, we entered a market that I've never personally seen before, and that is where we had the price of brand new memory, that's DDR4, skyrocket to levels of double that of what you'd be used to paying. And then at the same time, we also saw the cryptocurrency boom pretty much double the prices of new graphics cards. So what we had was a situation where people just simply didn't want to build a brand new gaming PC because the price performance wasn't there. And at the same time, a lot of those people came ushered into the used price performance segment, but even then, that segment couldn't fulfill the demand. The prices of used parts also went up at the same time, to the point where I had a rough time doing monthly deals hunts. But fast forward a year later, and we're now in a completely different situation, and in fact, I'd argue we're in the opposite situation as we were to last year, where it's actually never been a better time, in my opinion, to build either a used or a new gaming PC if you want to get into PC gaming. And today I'll give you guys some examples, also throw you some key statistics. But before we do that, a quick message from today's video sponsor, wix.com/go/techyescity. If you use the link in the description below, you can build a website completely free, no strings attached. But I'll talk about that later in the video. Let's show you guys some examples. So data points to November, December, and January now becoming the key 3 months of a year where retail sellers will want to try and sell as much as they can because the market with buyers want to buy as much as they can. And this market, of course, includes PC resellers who sell not only whole systems, but also components themselves, like graphics cards, SSDs, and CPUs and motherboards, for example. Just because it's now March, however, and the data points to this being a very flat and mediocre month for sales, that doesn't mean you could get a good deal. In fact, I'd argue it's one of the better months to get deals because retailers still have to keep up the revenue of their businesses to pay back loans. And if they don't keep up that revenue, they could find themselves in a difficult spot. This means that you can get some really good deals in the month of March. Now what we're going to do for this first new PC versus used PC is get a budget entry-level system going, and our budget is around $350 US. Now for a new PC, you could build a Ryzen 2200G system. It includes pretty much all brand new parts, a 1TB hard drive, a decent B450 motherboard, with room for upgrades in the future, as well as having quite fast DDR4 2933 MHz memory. This means we'll be able to play most titles in 2019 at 1080p, whether it be low or medium settings. So coming in just under $350, this time last year we couldn't build anything near this spec if we wanted to get brand new PC parts. However, the same can also be said for used parts. What I put together here was a list of some of the best deals I found that were readily available, and that is, you can purchase them right now and still get great benefits of used price performance. For instance, I found an Intel i5-3470S, which is a 4-core, 4-threaded CPU that has Ivy Bridges IPC, so it's actually not too bad for gaming. And then over at AliExpress, we found a Gigabyte H61 motherboard for $38.20. And now for the new parts, we're going to be using a 400-watt and 1TB hard drive and the same case as we use with the Ryzen 2200 system, because getting those shipped off AliExpress or eBay generally will be more expensive than what you can get them for off Amazon. However, we are still going to be saving money on our DDR3 memory versus DDR4. In fact, we're nearly saving double the money with two 4GB sticks coming in at $30.37 shipped to your door. And speaking of the brand for this memory, I haven't used someone else's Boner in the past, but I have used Camboner before, and it is some good stuff. Lastly, our Intel i5-3470S most likely doesn't come with a cooler, so we can go get a budget $10 cooler that will do an absolutely fine job of keeping this thing cool and stable. So tallying up the build costs of the new build versus the build that uses some new and some used components, we have a difference of $101.67. So we can now utilize that money and go out and buy a used graphics card. On eBay at the moment, there's a seller selling more than 10 RX 480s for $85.55 with shipping included. So we're still $16 ahead of the new build, and we're also going to have a lot better performance in games. Now there's nothing stopping you from going out and buying this RX 480 and coupling it with the Ryzen 2200G build. Of course, that will raise your costs to that of over $400, but you can still see how good used price performance is in 2019. And this is with me just quickly checking what deals are readily available on eBay and AliExpress. So when it comes to the budget end, you will seriously want to always consider used price performance because you can extract so much value for money. And especially if you want to go out like me and go look for used deals locally, you can get even better deals and put together something super cheap I'll put a playlist up here for my PCs that are used price performance PCs, so you can get an idea of what I like to pay for components and how cheap I can put together rigs that will play titles in 2019, no problems. But after we move away from the budget end, this is where things start to shift in two different directions, because of course, with buying new, you've got parts readily available. You don't have to go through the hassles of going out and looking for local deals. And so if we look at something like a Ryzen 5 2600, this is easily available for around $165, includes a CPU cooler, 6 cores, 12 threads, and has great IPC. And when we look at something like an RTX 2070, you couple this with the Ryzen 5 2600, and you've got really good value for money when it comes to building a brand new high-end gaming PC. But if we contrast that to the used market, Haswell i7 4770s, for example, they're coming in at roughly $140, and this most of the time doesn't even include a cooler. And this is, in my opinion, sort of like the minimum standard you want to go if you're getting into high-end gaming, as the Haswell CPUs themselves support generally all the latest instruction sets, even though they are a few years old to this date. And to make matters worse, when we move up to something like an i7 6700, they get even more expensive, usually with sellers demanding over $200 at buy it now prices. And also when we look at a graphics card like this, a GTX 1080 Ti, these generally can't be found for any less than $500 US. If you're in Australia, they're costing around 800 Aussie dollars at the moment, which makes an RTX 2070 actually come in cheaper a lot of the times, and that's brand new. Yes, it does have 3 GB less VRAM, but in some titles they will trade blows, and in this case of the GTX 1080 Ti, it probably won't have as much support ongoing as the new RTX cards will have. But the last thing I'm going to talk to you guys about is the risk of getting scammed, and it's a big risk in my opinion. For instance, when I was over in America, I got hosed on a 1050 Ti. Yes, I got the graphics card, but the seller said it worked, and it never worked. And so I've got here a dud, which me flying back to Australia, I didn't have time to test until I got back to Australia, and there's not a whole lot I can do to get my money back since the guy lives in the US. And that's one risk that you will face when you buy both used and new parts. Some sellers will actually list used parts as new parts, and in the case of a previous video we looked at a seller that was advertising a brand new PC with a CPU from 2009. It was absolutely ridiculous. I'll put the link for that video up here if you haven't seen it already. But in my opinion, the most common and abundant scam is that of graphics cards being sold on eBay. Sellers will put up in the title a GTX 1063 GB, for example, but when you look at the listing, there's discrepancies in those listings. For instance, if you look at the listing a little bit closer, you can see that the seller is putting 128-bit bus for the memory when this card should have 192-bit. So that's the first discrepancy, which points to this graphics card being a fake. The second thing, of course, is the price is too good to be true. So when it comes to graphics cards, always look for established brands. For instance, Gigabyte, Asus, Zotac, EVGA, Galax, Sapphire, and the list goes on. But anyway guys, all the worries aside, I hope the information in today's video has helped you make that choice, whether you're thinking about building a PC now or just waiting a little bit down the future. Yes, there's some good upgrades coming later on in the year, like the Ryzen 3000 series and the new Navi GPUs, which may make prices even cheaper, but as it stands, from what I'm doing with my current research, I think it's still a very good time to build a PC now. Who knows, maybe when those new PCs come out, the price of DDR4 memory and motherboards may go up, storage may go up. However, speaking of a good deal, today's video sponsor Wix.com probably has one of the best deals out there, and that is you can pay nothing and build yourself a website super quick, super easy, no strings attached, using the link in the description below, wix.com/go/techyescity. And basically I built myself a website for selling used PCs locally in literally 20 minutes. And I don't know anything about building websites and Java and HTML and all that stuff you need in order to build one of these fancy websites. Wix does it all for me with the inbuilt editor that pretty much just streamlines making a website through a user interface. So it's really easy to do, and you don't even have to sign up with a new account. You can use your current Gmail account or your Facebook account, log in via that, and then you can just start building a website with ease and then publish it straight away once it's ready. And you'll have something that's ready to go, will service your needs if you need to make a local blog, a local selling site, or a local informative site just to help people out. The possibilities are almost endless. Link is in the description below, wix.com/go/techyescity. And with that said, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, then be sure to hit that like button and let us know in the comments section below what you guys think of the new market versus the used market for PC parts and building a new gaming PC. Love reading your thoughts and opinions as always, and I'll catch you in another tech video very soon. But also, if you're enjoying the content enough, if you want to see the videos the moment they drop here on YouTube, also check us out for the inside scoop before it even gets to YouTube. And I'll catch you in the next tech video very soon. Peace out for now. Bye.